Hey guys, good morning. So today I wanted to talk about what your biggest fear should be. So I know there's a lot of us during this time that are, dealing with a lot of fear, fear of the unknown during the pandemic and kind of what's going on. So I wanted to talk about, what your biggest fear should be during this time. And your biggest fear during this time should actually be fear itself. And so fear is one of those things where, it's universal. Doesn't matter what race you are, doesn't matter, what color, what, your background, where you come from. We're all going to face fear. Fear is one of those things that, it's a given. And so the question arises, why do some people deal better with fear than others? And the answer to that is one of those things, like I said, that you can't avoid. So how come some people can manage and some people can't? And so I think the difference is that some people, they realize that the biggest thing to fear is fear itself. And there's different, I'm going to give you 9 tips that are going to help you, to kind of deal with fear. And so, how do we deal with it? So it's one of those things we don't want to avoid. A lot of us, it's that fear of flight. So when we start to face fear, we try to avoid it or ignore it. And that's not something you want to do. That kind of results us in feeling paralyzed and defeated. And so we really need to face it. That's the way we're going to overcome it. And so I'm going to share with you 8 things that you can do that are going to help you when you're kind of having that feeling of being overwhelmed with fear and overcome with fear and don't really know what to do. So the first thing to understand is that fear, a lot of the times, is not based on fact, but based on emotion. And so if you pay attention to some of the things, I always say to my kids, 80% of the things we're scared of never happen, right? And so it's that emotion that creates the fear, and it's not actually the fact itself and the idea that the actual thing you're fearing is actually going to happen, right? And so fear is actually the anticipation, right, of something bad happening. It's not that something bad has actually taken place, but it's that fear, that anticipation that, this is going to happen or that is going to happen, right? And so we need to understand that the majority of fears are not actually based on fact. They're 100% emotion. And so that's number 1. Number 2 is we want to admit our fears. And so I think a lot of times as a society, I know that I felt this way when I was younger, that fear somehow equals being weak, right? And because we're a fearful person, we don't have courage. And courage is actually the mastery of fear and not the absence of it. So, we need to learn to understand that it's a given. Like I said, we need to admit we're going to have it, but we need to gain mastery over it. And so that's number 2. Number 3 is accepting the frailty of life, right? And so there's some things in life that are a given. During this time, particularly the pandemic that we're in, a lot of people, the bottom line is that a lot of people are scared that they're going to catch the virus. And ultimately, I'm assuming that the fear is that it's going to kill them, or it's going to, somebody that they love, their family or their friends, are going to die from the virus. And the thing with that fear is, we're all going to die sometime. That's a given. You can't escape that. Now, we don't know when, but the fact that we are going to die as a human race is something we cannot control because it's going to happen. Another thing is that life will be painful and hard, right? That's a given. That's not something that we can kind of escape and get away from, right? That's a given. The fact that we're going to die, the fact that, sometimes life is going to be painful and hard, those are 2 things that are ultimately going to happen. And we can't control that they're not going to happen because they are going to happen. And so that's the 3rd thing, is accepting the frailty of life. So the 4th thing is fear is the price of progress. And so, by taking risks and by trying new things, that creates fear. But if you want to do anything of value, you're going to have to feel that fear. So I'm sure many of you have done things where, you were scared to do them, but you did them, you faced the fear, you did them, and then you felt amazing, right? And then the next thing that you were scared of was just that more, was that easier to do. And so fear is the price of progress. And so if we want to progress in life and if we want to grow, we have no choice but to face our fears and do it anyway. So that's the fourth thing. Number 5 is develop a desire that overcomes it. So it's the idea of, I don't know if there's anyone else here that's scared of heights, but I'm not fond of heights. So if you were to tell me, if you have 2 houses and you have a tightrope between the 2 houses, and you were to tell me to walk on that tightrope, or even a bridge or something between those 2 houses, I just wouldn't do it, because it's something I'm scared of. Now, if you put one of my kids in one of the houses, that's in danger, and say, okay, well, now you must cross the tightrope or you must cross the bridge to save your child, then I'm going to do it. Absolutely going to do it, right? And so that's the idea, that the desire that I need to get to the other side is bigger than the fear, right? And so we need to develop that desire that overcomes fear. So that's number 5. Number 6 is we need to focus on what we can control, right? And that is huge. There's so many of us right now that are focusing on what we can't control. There's a virus. We can take measures to try to protect ourselves and protect others, but we can't control the fact that the virus is here. We can't control the fact that, we may catch the virus. We just can't control that. And so we need to focus on what we can control in life and not things that we can't. So, focusing on our attitudes as we move about life and we have obstacles and we have challenges. We can't control necessarily a lot of those things. We can't control other people's actions, in our lives that kind of affect us, but we can control our attitude towards those things that happen to us, right? So we need to focus on those things that we can control and not spend so much time worrying about the things we can't. And so that's number 6. So number 7 is we need to focus on today. And I know I was notorious for this in the past, worrying about what if into the future, and worrying about the past and should I have done this, should I have done that, worrying about, problems that may arise in the future, things that may happen. And 90% of the time, we're not even thinking about the tasks or the things we need to get done today. Let's focus on today. What needs to get done today? What are the challenges that we have to face today? And focus on that, right? You're going to drive yourself, crazy if you're focusing on all the problems that you have in your life at one time, right? We want to focus on what does today entail and what must we do today, right? And so that's number 7. So number 8 is we need to get some wins, under our belt. And so, having courage to do something leads to more courage, right? And then doing something else, being courageous and doing something else leads to more courage. And then, you'll find that tackling things in your life that cause you a lot of amount of fear or stress are easy. Because that's kind of just what you do. I tell a lot of people that, one of my goals in life is to actually go into a shark cage. One of those cages under the water, and you let the sharks bite at you. And a lot of people are like, that's crazy. Why would you want to do that? And the idea behind it is that, that scares me absolutely. But it's one of those things that there's so many things in my life that I've felt really fearful about, and you do, and then you succeed, and then you feel so amazing that you've, faced that fear. And then the next time you do something that you're scared of, it's that much easier. And it's just that feeling of, I'm sure, any of you out here, hey Tanya, any of you out here that have done something that you're really scared of, right? And then you survive and you're okay. And it's that feeling of amazement, and you just feel so amazing that you've overcome that, right? And so that's number 8. And so just to go over kind of what I was talking about. So, like I was saying, is fear is one of those things you're not going to escape. It's one of the things that, in my opinion, you should fear the most, is fear itself, because it can paralyze you. It can destroy your life, right? And so just chatted about 8 things that can kind of help you get through fear. And so the first was, most fear is not based on fact. Number 2, we need to admit our fears. Number 3, we need to accept the frailty of life. Number 4, fear is the price of progress. Number 5, we need to develop a desire that overcomes fear. Number 6, we need to focus on what we can control. Number 7, focus on today. And number 8, get some wins under your belt. So hopefully this information helped you guys. Feel free to share. During these unprecedented times, I know a lot of you are facing a lot of fear. And so hopefully this just gave you a few tips to kind of get through these times and maybe just have the fear that you're, feeling just a little bit easier to handle. So thanks for joining me this morning. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and we'll chat again soon. Bye-bye.